Good morning, Jack. You wanted to understand and learn more about the ancient medicines of the world. We'll start in the East. The oldest medicines, some of the oldest. So it goes to Ayurvedic medicine. Ayurveda means knowledge or science of life. Dates back about 4 to 4,500 years ago in India. The Vedics were wise scholars, wise medicine men, very philosophical with dealing with people, very even-tempered. The British came in the early, right before the 20s, and they came in and they started ruling northern parts of India. And they saw the Vedic scriptures as not, because there are a lot of Catholic people ruling, they saw the scriptures as blasphemy and didn't like it. And they also started bringing drug companies in, and they lobbied in that they didn't like natural medicines interfering with the prophets, even way back when. So they started burning all their Vedic books. That's why it's taken so long for their culture and their medicine, Ayurveda, A-Y-V-R-D-I-C, Ayurvedic, or Ayurveda with an A instead of I-C. They started burning their books, so suppressing the knowledge. And Ayurveda, that's where yoga comes from. And that's where a lot of the constitutions come from. A lot of spices used in cooking and also healing. Remember, spices are some of the highest antioxidant values of any foods. They're just rich and concentrated with antioxidants, even in small amounts. So they witnessed animals, in regards to yoga from Ayurveda, they witnessed animals in nature and how they were so limber, downward dog, cobra, they looked at different things the animals were doing, right? And so that's Ayurvedic medicine. And now it's practiced in quite a few places in the West and in northeast of northeast of the United States. Next, we go to the Chinese dynasty. It dates back thousands of years, about 3,500 years. And the Yellow Emperor just showed up, somebody that's very knowledgeable with health, and started helping people. And then the king at the time found out, and they basically brought him in, and he was reluctant at one time because he wanted to help the common people, but I think they had threatened him or threatened some friends of his, and so he started helping them. And strangely enough, they had it down to such a science that if the physicians for the Yellow Emperor, they trusted the Yellow Emperor, but if the physicians for the Yellow Emperor, if somebody in the royalty or the king got sick or the queen from a normal illness and they got really sick or they passed, they would execute part of the medical staff because they believed that they were conspiring to harm or assassinate by poisoning or harming someone in the royal family. So that's strange, but they would execute them because they believed they had it down to such a science, most illnesses. So Chinese medicine works on the 24 meridian system. There's 12 meridians on each side of the body. Meridians provide energy or prana, or we call it chi in Chinese medicine. But in Ayurveda, it's prana, and that's in Western medicine, we consider that electrical current. So we know the heart has electrical current, but did you know that other organs also have a current? It's lower than the heart in terms of its energy. It's about a quarter of it, but it is there. And if we only learn how to measure those organs, we'd know that those organs aren't functioning well, even if our blood tests come back somewhat okay, right? Ancient medicine is sometimes the future of medicine, even though it's a long time ago. So that's a Chinese medicine. You work with acupuncture and moxibustion. Moxa is a plant that they use that really helps go deep into the body, helps to fix an imbalance, right? You have yin, yang, and you have blood chi. There's typically one or two imbalances in there. You could have a blood deficiency and you could have a yang or a yin deficiency. So I know a little bit about it because I was healed through Japanese and Chinese medicine, acupressure and Chinese herbal medicine. I actually healed the trauma from it. They went back and they held the points when I went back to an event that happened. And I went back and experienced it for the first time. Actually, what I was trying to let my parent know, about what happened. It was a big scolding several times when I was really young. So that's Chinese medicine, that's Ayurvedic medicine. Next, you go to European medicine, right? And European medicine, a lot of times they called them witches or gypsies. And a lot of times they believed in God, and some of them are Christians, but they were helping so many people that the church or even the people in town, like in Massachusetts, the Salem witch trials, or in different parts of England and France, the Cathars. The Cathars are people that were Catholics that left the Catholic Church, and they were basically attacked for almost, 9,500 years. And most of them were taken out by the Catholic Church. You can look into the history yourself, but they had a different view about God. They taught more, it was less controlling. And that's what happened with the Cathars. They also taught medicine, and you have the gypsies and the so-called witches. They weren't calling themselves witches, but some of them were. They were doing dark stuff. But so a lot of medicine is misunderstandings or based out of fear, right? If you're teaching fear, then you're resisting a part of the medicine. You're bringing fear, right? And people don't think logically in fear. We have herd mentalities, but that's for another talk. So you have that medicine, and then we have the Native American medicine, right? They use all kinds of different bushes and herbs and barks and plants growing around. You have milk thistle. You have osha. Osha grows in high altitudes. Natives have witnessed the bears chewing the osha when they were like wheezing or coughing, and they would harvest the osha it's around 8,000 and 9,000 feet, and they would use osha for the lungs. And now Western medicine shows that that's very beneficial, right? In some studies, there's a company out of Santa Fe, Herbs Etc., that uses osha, and other companies, Herbs Etc. I just mentioned that Herb Farm. And then you have people in Europe, and they came to the United States when we founded this country, and you had midwives. Sometimes there were men, but usually there were women. And they would work with Native Americans to understand medicine and how to help women when they're pregnant, how to help nourish their body while they're conceiving, during the conceiving of the birth process, before, during, and after the process. So there's a company called Wish Garden out of Colorado, and that's originally that company was based on knowledge of the midwives, right? Very valuable. A lot of times the doctors weren't nearby, so the midwives would have to help give birth to the children, right? And we also have a doctor here in Colorado, one of the best doctors at the time, and her name is Dr. Suze Anderson, one of the best physicians. She was one of the first female doctors in Colorado. She went to the University of Michigan in like 1890 or so is when she studied medicine there as a doctor. I think there was only 3 or 4 at the time during that semester. And she got tuberculosis, and she was really ill. And so she read about living at high altitude and how that helped deal with reducing a lot of symptoms. And she knew a lot about like herbs and nutrition, so she figured she could maybe heal this. So she went to Fraser outside of Winter Park, and there's statues there of her. There's plays been written about her. Ethel Barrymore, a famous actor in the early 1900s, she found out about her and she approached her and she wanted to do a movie about her. She was still practicing medicine. She was probably 40 at the time, Dr. Suze Anderson. And Dr. Suze said, no, I'm not interested in sharing my story. I'm just trying to help people around this town of like 400 people at the time. And so she left, and they believed that that movie that was on TV with the actress, one of the Bond girls, I forget her name, but she, Doc Medicine Woman, I believe it was, or Medicine Woman, that series that was supposed to be filmed in Colorado Springs was actually filmed in California. That was on for 4 or 5 years. They believe that was based partially on her life. They don't know for sure, but it had a lot of similarities. But Dr. Suze Anderson actually helped. She was a midwife too and a doctor, and at one point she helped the birthing process for half of the over a 10-year period for half of the population in that country, in Fraser, Colorado. There's a museum there. They have her medical bag. They have her birthing table. She was an eccentric person, but once you got to know her, she's pretty warm. She would, walk to her clients, her patients' houses to help them. There's wonderful stories about the service she did. She was one of the best doctors, probably the top 20 doctors in the country. But people at the time were afraid to see a woman. They didn't think they're competent, which is strange. But this was like, 1910 or so when she was really in her practice. But she healed her tuberculosis. At least she got it enough where she didn't have any issues. But as soon as she would leave Fraser and go down to where her home state of Indiana, she would get sick again within 2 or 3 months. So she ended up moving back. And she ended up living to be, I think it was around 90. I think she died in 1960. But so that's a little bit of history about Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, Native American medicine, midwives, one of the best female doctors in the early 1900s. So that's a little bit there. So hope that answers your question, Jack, and I hope people find this valuable. God bless.